How's your optimism? Hey, listen, it can be a little bit weird out there, and prospecting is always difficult. And I'll tell you what, optimism now is more important than ever. Helping me today, Roberta Moore. She's a sales coach to sales leaders, salespeople around the country. Hey, why am I talking? Let's get the show going right now.
You're listening to the Sales Hunter Podcast with Mark Hunter, where the focus is to help you as a sales leader sell with confidence and integrity. And now here's your host.
If I were to ask you, where is optimism on your optimism meter? In other words, is it 1 low or is it 100? Let me tell you something more important than ever. Roberta Moore is going to help me with this conversation. You're a sales coach to so many people around the country. Let's talk about optimism. What are you finding?
Mark, it's just like you started to say. I'm finding that people are losing their optimism. Optimism is an EQ skill. It's been identified as one of the 16 important skills in the EQI 2.0 model that I use. So that EQ can go, your skill of optimism can go up or down. You're not born with the skill. You have to cultivate it. And when you're in tricky situations, like circumstances that you feel are beyond or outside of your control, your optimism can go down.
Wow. Hey, I want to stop you there for a second because you said you're not born with optimism. So many people are saying, well, they're just born optimists. It's like they're a born salesperson. No, wrong. We really do. This is a trait. This is a skill. This is an attribute that we learn and we adapt. And what's happening out there? And more importantly, how do we frame our optimism towards working for us versus against us?
Yes. So people, there's uncertainty, right? We always have uncertainty. You're always very good at reminding people that there's always times of uncertainty. And this is where a lot of the EQ skills, Mark, go hand in hand. So I'm also going to pull in the EQ skill of self-regard, which is very similar to confidence. But if you don't have enough confidence or to know that you have the skills you need in order to be optimistic in the first place, to know that what you're selling, whether it's your own service or your company's product, you have to know that you value yourself and you value your skills so that you can be optimistic, that you can reach people in times of uncertainty or what might be considered a down market. If you don't have that, you're not going to be able to be so optimistic.
Okay, so now to be an optimist, it means you have to be confident. Is that correct?
I would say yes. You have to be confident about your ability to see a bright future, even if there's no evidence in this moment of a bright future.
I got it. But I'm gonna counter this that you could be confident and be a pessimist too. I mean, that's, if that's your fundamental belief, but we're leaving that aside. We're not talking about that. We're talking about optimism here because I love this because it's so critical, because I always say this from a prospecting standpoint. If you don't believe in who you are and the job and how you can help somebody, you're not an optimist. You don't have optimism. There's no way you're going to be successful prospecting. How do we go about increasing our level of optimism?
Thank you for asking, because I wrote about that extensively in my book, if I may mention my book, Emotion at Work, Unleashing the Secret Power of Emotional Intelligence. One of the exercises I have people do, just had somebody do this the other day. One of the things you could do is, who do you know? Think about a person who's an optimist and a person who's a pessimist. Two people, could be TV figures, it could be people in your work or personal life. And then listing what you notice, their qualities of each, and doing a compare and a contrast. And then thinking about what qualities do you have or skills in your personality or in your toolbox that might push you more in that direction of the optimist? And what might that optimistic person have? Usually it's a positive mindset, Mark. Usually optimists have honed their mindset and worked on it, transformed it from victim mindset to optimistic, positive growth mindset. And so you might then try to behave more like that optimistic person.
Yeah, okay. Do optimistic people need to hang around with optimistic people?
I would say yes. You've heard this, I'm sure, that we become the 5 closest people we're with. And so you can have the skill of optimism and not use it. Like it could be muted, like the volume turned down if you're hanging out with a bunch of pessimists. And if you don't have the assertiveness to say, I don't care if I'm different. I have a different opinion than all the rest of you. I'm going to express it, and I'm optimistic about what's going on.
Yeah. Now, we'll say I'm optimistic, and I am an optimistic person. But I go into a sales call, get on, and the customer's negative. We are dealing with a problem, and it just sucks that optimism out of you. Again, is there a well that we have that we can go down into, or a basement, and kind of pull it up and bring it out? And I mean, again, coach us how we would handle a situation where we're dealing with a negative customer.
I had that happen just on Monday, just this week, Mark. So what I did, I'll just tell on myself, because as a person, I have suffered in the past from, and sometimes still do, with anxiety or low self-regard. So what I did in that call is I focused on my breathing, and I reminded myself, because I have made a list already in advance before even getting on that call, of things I've done in the past where I've been successful, of challenges I faced, where I thought I had an illogical fear that I couldn't turn something around, but I did. So you could say a list of my accomplishments. And when I take a deep breath, it kind of grounds me back into that, so that I'm in touch with that passion I have for knowing how important EQ is in sales.
I love that example that you just kind of go back into your own mind, because I think we can all go back, because we're all facing a little bit of uncertainty right now with the economy where it is, and yet we all felt much worse during COVID.
Yes.
Whether or not we had COVID or not, because of the uncertainty, and yet we came through it. And most people are old enough to remember the great R. I can't say the word great R, but in 08 and 09. And again, it seemed pretty dark there for a brief period of time, but we came through that. Why is it so hard for people to think past the moment that they're standing in? Because again, optimism is really kind of having a long-term view. At least that's the way I frame it up. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yes, because we get stuck in a part of our brain that's called the amygdala, which is a primitive part of the brain, which is that part it triggers fight, flight, or freeze. So people get stuck in the freeze, Mark, because that part of our brain is predisposed to finding problems. So in the old days, we could stay alive, literally, from the saber-toothed tiger. And today, it doesn't know the difference between an imagined or a real threat. So you can get frozen from even having an illogical thought, and you can get stuck in it. Now, where I thought you were going to, and I was so glad you mentioned COVID, because resiliency, the work of Paul Bartone and the hardiness resilience gauge, which is another assessment tool I use. During COVID, what got me through was his concept of imagining it as a challenge, and who will I become on the other side of this challenge as I transform my illogical fear? Who could I become? And becoming very excited about who I could become, how I could grow personally into somebody who's more confident, who's more certain and assured of herself, who's more passionate about the work I do, and then helping others to know you can get through challenging times.
It seems like what you're painting a picture of is that optimism is always looking at a future state. Is that correct, or what?
Looking at accessing the dream of that future state while staying in the present moment, Mark. Because I just told my last client, stay, because he was worried about accomplishing his sales goal. And this year, the sales goal is like, I don't know, it's double or triple than his sales goal last year, which he made. And this year he was saying, I don't have much in my pipeline. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, you stay in the moment. And then he had told me, I'm doing everything I can think of. I said, good, then you keep telling yourself, I'm doing everything I can think of. These steps, I imagine, will lead to me accomplishing the goal.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned earlier before we went live that you did a lot of coaching with a lot of insurance people on procrastinating prospecting. In other words, it's just prospecting. They just couldn't do it. And again, I see optimism being so critical to being successful in prospecting. What was some of the advice that you were sharing with?
Well, I had a heads up, Mark, with that because I was able to use my EQI 2.0 assessment tool, which is scientifically valid and reliable. And I could pinpoint exactly which skills each person was needed to skill build, and then as a group. So each person separately, and then as a group. And they turned out to be assertiveness was one of them. So that's taking initiative. It's the opposite of procrastination. It's I'm willing to put myself out there. I'm willing to take the step I need to take. It might be awkward. It might be uncomfortable. And we also worked on interpersonal relationships because I focused with them on building a relationship with somebody, even if they were cold calling, how to do that. And then in order to do that, they also needed to be emotionally self-aware because they needed to know what emotion they were feeling in the moment when they picked up that telephone, right? And then imagining how they wanted to feel when they were in that conversation.
Well, yeah, the majority of people, when they're picking up that phone to make that cold call, like, I don't want to make this call. I don't want. They're looking for any excuse in the world to not have to make that call. And again, is there a process that you coach salespeople on to kind of get them up and into the groove of making those prospecting calls?
Well, we talked about yes, this is my favorite exercise. I didn't make it up myself. I learned it from another coach when I was in my leadership coaching training program. But it's so effective, Mark. You take a stack of index cards. My stack is right here. And you write things down. Like, okay, here's the first one I have. It's an affirmation. I am completely confident about my ability to grow my business. I am my own authority. I'm just picking these out. I think quickly on my feet. Those are examples. And you see, I have a big stack of these.
Yeah.
You read them out loud in front of a mirror. And in the very beginning, you might feel very awkward and feel silly and like, why is Roberta asking me to do this? But I promise you, if you read these and you feel it, you have to feel it when you're saying it into the energy of the emotion. If you do that every day for 30 days, you will be transformed. You will take more action. You will be more confident on those calls. I had a client during COVID who was in hospitality at a big resort in the Caribbean, and he was the HR person, and he had to keep the staff people positive, and they were getting grumpy. He did this exercise like I suggested. He took it to heart, did it every day for 30 days, and I watched his demeanor go from kind of like this when he's talking to me to being big, like, I'm going to rally these troops. It's working. I'm succeeding. I mean, his personality really came to the forefront doing this exercise.
Wow. I see the power in that because those cards are in your own handwriting, right?
Correct.
So you just take a stack of index cards or stack of anything and you write down one affirmation. Call out a few more of the ones that you had just to give people, because again, this is a great exercise. And you make 20 or 30 of these. And like you said, you stand in front of a mirror and you recite those every day. So what are a couple that you can maybe jumpstart people who are listening?
I have confident expectations about the success of my book. I wrote that one a while ago because my book's been out for a few years. I am poised for greatness.
Love it.
I'm on the edge. I'm just on the edge of something big. Let's see. I value the composite of my qualities and characteristics.
Okay, that's cool. Because what you did was you just wrote down affirmations that you feel good. Those are clearly things that you're confident about, or when you wrote them, you were confident about, or you wanted to be confident about them.
I wanted to be, Mark. And when I first wrote them, these were, I was wobbly.
Okay. So, okay. Now right there, that is perfect for this audience to hear, because you may be in this state where you're just not feeling good. So write down affirmations of your future state, state. Write them down and recite them every morning. I love that. And I'm gonna challenge you.
But you have to do it in front of the mirror.
You got to do it. Of course, you got to do it in front of a mirror. Why? Because you got to see yourself. There's a reflection of you. I'll tell you what, that goes back to something that I had a boss tell me one time. He said, Mark, whenever you're on the phone, you have to have a mirror in front of you. You have to have a mirror in front of you, because your voice becomes a reflection of who you see yourself. And there's just something about that visual picture of you. So I love that exercise. I love that. So, hey, audience, right there's your tip. And I tell you what, I think that's got two things written all over it. One, it helps increase your level of optimism. And two, it certainly is going to help you as you gear up. Oh, I got to make these calls. I got to do this. I got to do this. It powers me through. What are some other strategies or ideas that people can use to kind of get their optimism meter to 100?
Again, it was at what I already said about thinking about who do you know who's optimistic. You can go I didn't say this. You can go interview that person about what makes them optimistic. Mm-hmm. How do they keep a growth mindset when they don't see any evidence of things going in that growth direction? What are they doing? And so they will tell you, right? Other things that I teach just as a foundation to almost every client to build this skill, Mark, and you already know this, having the morning ritual.
Yes.
So for me, I as soon as I get my coffee in the morning, I get up early. I read something that has to do with my business. I close my eyes and meditate, and then I go do my exercise before ever starting my day. So it's about setting the intention. I'm setting the intention that I'm poised for a great day.
I love what you're saying there, because again, it's so powerful how you start your day. I can't emphasize that. This morning I was having breakfast with a very high performer that I have the privilege of coaching. And I've been working with him on it. And he says, I have been in this routine now, and it is absolutely making a difference. There's a couple things that you brought up that I love this. Some of the things that you brought up require the help of other people. In other words, if you've got a sales team, if you've got other people you work with, you could reach out to them. You become the sum of the 5 people. But others are what you can just do yourself. So there's no reason for anybody to not have a process in place.
Correct.
Get their optimism meter up to 100.
Correct. And then, Mark, see, for like bookends on the day, in the evening, as I'm getting ready to go to bed before falling asleep, I'm reviewing the day. Where did I shine? Where could I have done better? And it doesn't have to take a long time. You can kind of do that quickly. Taking deep breaths. Taking the deep breaths is so important for resetting your vagus nerve, which is the rest and digest function, so that your body relaxes. And you have to have a good relaxed body when you're on those sales calls, because if you're keyed up, I mean, you could be a tiny bit anxious. That's human. But if you're beyond just the tiny bit, people are going to pick up on that. Even if they can't see you, they'll just hear it in the tone of your voice, like the tightness. All of that transfers unconsciously. So yeah, you have to do things to really embody that vision of what you're selling.
I'll tell you what, there's so much value in what you shared with that, because how we prepare ourselves going into a sales call. I think I mentioned before we began the show, had this breakfast this morning. A lead came in while I was sitting there. I needed to call the person back, and I'm sitting in my car trying to conduct a Zoom call with a person who I've never talked to. And yet I had to be in the moment because this was going to be a BAM fam, book a meeting from a meeting. In other words, there was a little bit of a sense of a lead there. I'm going to jump on it. We did, but I got to be in the moment. And I had to be in the moment, had to be ready. And I think this comes back to this whole thing that our mindset predetermines what we get out of a sales call. And your optimism is so critical.
I'm thinking, Mark, there had to be a part of your mindset that you thought, I can do this. There's an opportunity there. I'm going to go after the opportunity. Otherwise, if you didn't think that way, you probably would not have made that call, right? You would have procrastinated on it.
Well, yeah, it was, because I was calling a VP of sales of a pretty significant company. If I said the name, the audience would know the company. And there was a tendency to say, do I wait and catch it later in the day when I'm back in my office? No, speed. So I wanted to grab the first 15-minute window that I could find. And that was it, sitting in my car. But I wasn't taken back that, wait a minute, I'm going to be in my car. This gentleman is probably going to be in his office, and it's probably a big office. And yeah, I could tell by the call. Actually, it wasn't a Zoom call. It was a Teams call. I could tell immediately that this was a big office this guy was in. And but from the front seat of my car, I was able to conduct the call. Yeah. Hey, we got to wrap this up. This is a great conversation. And I love your tip. And I'm going to stress it again. Get some 3x5 cards. Write down those future affirmations. Recite those every day, standing in front of a mirror. Powerful to really move your level of optimism from 0 to 100. Yeah. Hey, Roberta, how do people get in touch with you? And name the title of your book again.
The book is on Amazon, but you can also source it from my website. It's called Emotion at Work, Unleashing the Secret Power of Emotional Intelligence. You can find my website as www.eqicoach.com. And you can reach me by email at rmoore, M-O-O-R-E, at eqicoach.com, or by telephone at area code 828-329-0431.
She said it all. And if you wait long enough, she'll give you a WhatsApp. No, anyway, this excellent. eqicoach.com. That is your website, right? This has been great.
Correct.
Hey, Roberta, thanks for being on the show. We've been talking about this for a long time, and great to finally be able to pull this show off. And let me tell you something. Hey, what is sales? What is the Sales Hunter podcast all about? It's 2 episodes a week, one like this with a subject matter expert where we do a deep dive. 2nd episode, short, single topic for me. Why? It's all about helping you see and achieve what you didn't think was possible. Do me a favor, leave a review on your favorite podcast app. And hey, share the podcast with a friend, because hey, all we want to do is help people. That's what sales is all about. Thanks so much. Great selling.